The moment he opens his eyes, he is thrust into a cold, unforgiving world. This is train survival. Passengers must disembark at every single station. They explore dangerous stations with one goal: stay alive. The lucky few find rare treasures, but the unlucky ones, they pay with their lives, proving danger and opportunity walk hand in hand. To survive here, a person has to gather supplies constantly and upgrade their carriage, slowly building a personalized train world of their own. But our main character enters this brutal game with a totally unique advantage. He possesses a one-of-a-kind, legendary ascension ability. Anything in his hands can be evolved to its absolute limit. A crude dagger becomes an enchanted blade, then an eternal cutter. Even simple forest fruit trees can be upgraded to blessed trees. They become blessed, then transform into Venus's golden fruit tree. Even a common beehive transforms into a giant wasp nest, or even a futuristic nano hive, leaving the rest of the world behind. While others fight over stale bread, he grows stronger by the second. He leaves everyone else in the dust, looking around his carriage. He wonders if the massive train itself can undergo this evolution. It turns out his wild instincts are completely and utterly correct. Before the first station even arrives, he has a massive lead. A system notification flashes, confirming the evolution is a massive success. This record-breaking feat instantly unlocks the highly coveted Destiny Divergence module. As the sole conductor, he can now choose his next destination. The system warns him to sit tight as the engine finally starts. They are approaching the stop before we see what happens next in this story. Be sure to hit that subscribe button and give this video a like. It really helps. Let us jump back a few hours earlier. A cold, robotic voice echoed in the endless dark void. It wished him eternal life as his train carriage prepared to depart. When he finally wakes up, a massive headache hits him like a truck. Staring at the strange, empty carriage, he rubs his temples in frustration. He has absolutely no idea how he ended up in this place. His last memory was just watching anime late at night. Then darkness swallowed his vision, leaving a massive blank space. For a second, he wonders if he literally died from overworking. Did he go straight to hell? A mysterious voice cuts him off. The system suddenly announces that all survivors have successfully awakened. It begins listing the basic regulations, and he listens closely. Rule number 1, never abandon your train under any circumstances. Every 24 hours after departure, they will arrive at a new station. These stops last for 3 hours, giving passengers time to explore. They must gather resources to upgrade their trains and unlock modules. But the system is crystal clear about one thing: do not leave early. Leaving before reaching a station is suicide. The final command is simple: survive. The announcement ends with a harsh warning to follow these rules. According to the rules, the first station is set to arrive in just 1 hour. The sheer length of the message makes him reflexively pinch his cheek, and the sharp sting confirms this is absolutely no dream. As his headache starts fading, he struggles up from the cold floor to look around. Everything is exactly as it seems: a single carriage racing through an endless wilderness. Streaming past the windows, the only real standout is an oval-shaped device right at the front, sporting a glowing screen that displays the words "Train Control System." Without pausing, he walks over and taps it, and the system pops up with options. For conductor info, train stats, a trading market, and a chat room. Feeling curious, he opens the chat room and finds it completely packed with 10,000 players. Messages are flying by in a total blur. Someone is screaming about their money and demanding to be let out, while another desperately searches for their medicine. A woman named Sean is frantically calling out for her husband. Some are wondering if they got ice guide, while one sarcastic guy is just happy he does not have to face his boss the next day. But then, a message catches his eye from a guy claiming they are just actors on a weird survival show. the guy announces he is getting off. Immediately to prove it is all fake, completely ignoring the massive warnings. Seconds later, his name vanishes, and the counter drops to 9,999. A cold chill runs down his spine, but he quickly shakes his head and decides not to dwell on it. He closes the chat window and swipes over to his train. Details: it is a level 1 train with 0 extra cars, chugging along at a slow 20 kilometers per hour. There is a simple recycling workbench and a basic frame. Wheels and base. The upgrade costs are incredibly high: 100 kilograms of wood, 150 kilograms of metal, and 50 mechanical parts. The speed gets him thinking, if arrival times are locked at 24-hour intervals, then why does speed even matter? Plus, with 10,000 people showing up, the upcoming station must be massive. He peers back out at the endless wilderness as a dark thought creeps in. Perhaps speed actually matters, because if he moves too slowly down these tracks, some unknown creature out in the wild is going to catch up to him. Pushing past the dread, he opens up his personal status screen. His name and I are listed right next to his sanity and stamina stats, both resting at a solid 100. The sanity tracker warns him of terrible mental decay, from simple fatigue to complete madness, while his stamina dictates his raw physical ability to stay alive. He has 0 special abilities listed, but right under the talent tab, a single word changes the entire game: sublimation. Tapping on the description, the system explains that he can spend stamina or sanity to evolve and upgrade literally anything, with absolutely no limits on level or category. Instantly, he searches the massive chat room for any mention of talents, but finds absolutely nothing. If these overpowered skills were common, someone would have flexed on the chat by now. Meaning people with special talents are incredibly rare in this world. He wonders why he got handed this insane cheat skill, but then it hits him. He was always slightly different back on Earth. He remembers how broken computers would magically run top-tier games the second he laid hands on them. Regular cars seemed to reach impossible speeds. His friends used to joke that he was pleasing machine spirits, but he had always just dismissed it as a series of coincidences. Now, this description confirmed it had been real all along. He wondered how far he could push this power to sublimate any object. He walked over to the workbench where a water bottle, a loaf of bread, and a small knife sat as starter gear. He looked at the level 1 shoddy Dagger and internally commanded it to sublimate. An invisible force instantly enveloped the crude blade, and he felt his stamina drop from 100 to 90. In an instant, it transformed into a level 2 enchanted sharp dagger. The excitement surged through him as the blade gleamed coldly in his hand. The talent actually worked, and the stamina cost was completely manageable. He swung the dagger, listening to it whistle sharply through the air, amazed that such a high-quality weapon had come from such shoddy materials. A new, more ambitious idea took hold of him as he looked around the carriage. The description had said he could sublimate any existence, and that had to include the train itself. Taking a deep breath with his eyes sparkling in anticipation, he approached the control panel and placed his hand firmly on the oval device, silently giving the command to sublimate. The invisible force manifested once more, but this time he felt his stamina draining at a much more alarming rate than when he had upgraded. The small knife, a heavy exhaustion settled over him as he watched his stamina plummet from 90 to a mere 30. He collapsed onto the floor, huffing out a weary breath, yet he could not suppress a surge of excitement as he watched the train transform before his eyes. A notification confirmed that the upgrade was successful, bringing the train to level 2 and revealing the steep material requirements for the next stage: 200 kilograms of wood, 200 mechanical parts, and 400 kilograms of metal blocks. Beyond the physical changes, he had unlocked several upgrade options, and more importantly, a reward for breaking the record for the fastest train upgrade, a special module card. Once he managed to catch his breath, he took a moment to carefully examine the train's Current status, reaching level 2 had automatically improved the chassis. Frame, wheels, and workbench, effectively doubling their speed from 20 to 40 kilometers per hour. What truly piqued his interest, however, was the sense that he could still sublimate this train further, unlike the knife, which felt as though it had nearly exhausted its potential. The train's ceiling seemed much higher. He knew his current reserves would not be enough to push it again immediately unless he tapped into his mental energy, but after remembering the warnings about sanity, he decided to shelve that idea, probably for the best. Instead, he turned his attention to the new upgrade options and the special module card. The level 2 upgrade menu offered 4 blueprints: a basic carriage for free, a water tank for 1 coin, a burst acceleration device for 5, and the ability to extend docking time for 2 coins. He frowned slightly, realizing that these train coins must be the local currency, since he did not have a single one. He worried that he might be forced into the free option and lose out on the others. Fortunately, the system confirmed that he could reserve these choices for up to 3 station stops. Relieved, he extracted the free basic carriage blueprint, noting its massive material requirements. He skipped upgrading it for now, fearing that the hefty construction costs would be impossible to meet before he even gathered basic materials. He grabbed the special module card, which materialized as a glowing diamond wrapped in pale blue particles above his palm. The description was incredibly vague, stating only that it would grant a special module when activated. Naturally, he could not suppress the urge to upgrade the card. Although his stamina was low, his mind was sharp, and a quick meal of bread and water miraculously restored his stamina to 50. He muttered to himself that testing it was fine, silently commanding it to upgrade. That heavy, invisible force slammed back as the card released a brilliant spray of glowing blue particles like shooting stars. Externally, the entire train must have looked like a massive comet trailing blue flames. As it accelerated through the void, once the light faded, he felt a heavy lethargy settle into his bones. His stamina dropped to 20, and mental energy hit 60, triggering a fatigue warning. Despite the cost of 70 total points, it was worth it. The card evolved into a rare exclusive module. He lay on the floor examining it, wondering what fatigue actually felt like, since he did not feel different. Perhaps intense physical exhaustion simply masked the mind. He offered a quick prayer to every deity he could think of, from ancient gods to the god emperor, before finally activating it. Azure light enveloped him as the system congratulated him on obtaining a unique conductor module called Crossroads of Fate. Its effect was simple yet profound. His path would always present a second choice, leading to different destinies. But before he could explore the details any further, the train's PA system crackled to life, announcing imminent arrival. At the first station, he was shocked to realize an entire hour had already passed unnoticed. With only 1 minute left, a second screen appeared courtesy of his new module. He faced 2 choices: Platform 1, the swampland, or Platform 2, the armory. Recognizing this as the power of his exclusive module, he made his choice instantly, choosing the armory, reasoning that while others sought food, nothing beats having serious firepower out here. Weapons. As soon as he made his selection, the space ahead of the train distorted violently, looking like the open maw of some giant beast. The train whistle shrieked as they plunged through warped reality, and the surroundings transformed completely. They had arrived. The countdown began at 3 hours, and to his immense relief, the system showed no hazards were detected. The train gradually slowed to a crawl, the rhythmic clattering of tracks fading to silence as he arrived at his first stop. Standing before the sealed door, he took a deep breath to steady his nerves, tightening his grip on his upgraded dagger before pressing the release button. Outside lay a heavy, oppressive, pitch-black void, yet strangely, a massive matchbox-sized building stood clearly in the distance. His field of vision. Looking up, he realized there was actually no sun in the sky, yet the ground beneath him and the building ahead were still perfectly visible. It hit him. Right then, that space travel is an incredibly powerful ability, it certainly explained. Why every single train had matching arrival times despite the massive distances. He stepped off the train, reaching the entrance in under 10 quick steps. The giant doors were shut tight, but he managed to pry a gap open using his trusty dagger. As the heavy door swung wide, a foul, rotten stench hit him straight. The face. Stepping inside, he found neat rows of stacked wooden crates, the obvious source of that decaying smell. Using his blade, he pried off the rusted iron locks. From the nearest box, inside, 2 bolt-action rifles lay half buried in wood shavings. The system identified them as low-grade marksman rifles, each loaded with 20 low-grade bullets, 2 guns, and 40 rounds in one single box. Talk about hitting the jackpot. He spent the next hour cracking open more boxes and hauling all that sweet loot back to his train. After several trips, the adrenaline rush he had been running on finally started hitting its limit. His stamina had completely dropped to 15 points. Overusing his sublimation skill had already pushed his physical limits, though his excitement somehow allowed his mind to recover to 70, with 3 hours of docking time and no energy replenishment. He knew he would run out of strength to carry supplies if he did not pace himself. After resting up, he pivoted from lifting to lighter exploration. Inside a side room, he spotted several sealed iron boxes on a shelf, which looked exactly like those military supply crates from back home. The markings on the surface were pretty blurry, but he felt a nervous thrill as he swallowed hard and pried one open. Inside were neat, tightly packed blocks of compressed biscuits, looking almost like bars of gold while giving off a milky aroma. With a slight fermented tang, ignoring any expiration dates, he stuffed one straight into his mouth immediately. It was exactly what he needed, though he quickly realized he would need some water. These things satisfy hunger but leave you completely parched. He found 4 barrels of these rations, 80 biscuits in total, enough to sustain a man for half a month. Nearby, he found sealed barrels of water, though the snow was completely undrinkable. Still, he loaded everything right onto his train. Resources are resources. The armory was a cramped, semi-enclosed space filled with collapsed shelves and rotting debris. In 2 hours, he salvaged 42 intact rifles. The rest were completely rusted out, only fit for the processing station. He also loaded up on plenty of iron and wood. Even if he did not use them, they would be incredibly valuable for trading. With 30 minutes left on the timer, he decided on one final run. His carriage was getting packed, and a second one was his top priority. He had the wood and parts, but was still short on metal. He headed straight for the innermost area, bypassing the main mess to check the final rooms. These looked like foreign living quarters. The first few were empty, but as he entered the last room, a sickening crunch. He looked down. He realized he had stepped on a small leg bone from a skeleton. He muttered a quick apology to the dead brother on the floor. No fear here. Even as a kid, horror movies amused him, and he was never once fazed by the sight of the deceased. As he pulled back his foot, he spotted a dust-covered paper document bag beneath the skeletal remains. It was incredibly strange. Iron and wood had rotted to absolutely nothing in this place, yet this fragile paper bag was perfectly intact. Intrigued, he snatched it up, then jogged straight back to the safety of the train to use the system appraisal function. Just in case of traps, to his surprise and delight, the screen identified it as a level 1 treasure chest. He laughed, thanking the old skeleton and promising a proper burial later, but as he went to open it, he paused. Would he risk it? Could sublimate the train, surely he could sublimate this too. His stats sat at 30 stamina and 80 spirit. He reasoned that such a small bag wouldn't drain him too much, and he could easily eat another biscuit to quickly recover. Once he convinced himself the decision was effectively made, he whispered the command to Sublimate, his stats began to drain instantly. A warning flashed that his spirit had fallen below 50 points, plunging him deep into a state of severe self-doubt. He collapsed onto the floor like a fish out of water, staring blankly at the swaying ceiling. Lamp, after a long moment, he sat up, his stamina resting at 20 and spirit at 50. Honestly, it did not feel like a big deal, aside from the heavy physical fatigue. The self-doubt state did not seem to hinder him. The cost to reach Level 2 was 40 points, higher than he expected, but the folder was now a level 2 treasure chest. It seemed it could not be pushed further, perhaps lacking the potential or being capped by a rule he did not yet understand. He rubbed his hands together and opened the folder. The rewards flashed before him. 4 train coins, a Colt M1911 pistol, and a level 2 blueprint for an garbage collector. Reflecting on the 4 coins he had just acquired, he realized that this was indeed the primary way to obtain the local currency. He quickly opened his train details and saw that the options appearing after the level 2 upgrade were still available at the top of the interface. Without much hesitation, he spent 3 of those newly acquired train coins to purchase the basic water tank blueprint and an additional hour of docking time, leaving him with only a single lonely coin to his name. If he can manage to find another treasure chest at the next station, he might just gather enough to afford that acceleration device. He noticed the departure countdown had shifted to an hour and 15 minutes, so he turned his attention toward the physical rewards from the chest. The Colt M1911 felt substantial in his hand, compared to those mass-produced firearms he had salvaged from the armory. Its craftsmanship was so refined it could be considered a pure work of art. He quickly deduced that the firearms in this hostile world likely shared a universal bullet type, so he loaded a magazine with low-grade ammunition to test it out. Aiming directly at a wooden box outside the carriage, he pulled the trigger and watched as the crate instantly shattered into splinters. The sheer, overwhelming power of the shot took him by surprise, and he rubbed his slightly sore palm, where the recoil had bitten into the webbing of his hand. Although this handgun used the exact same bullets as the ones from the armory, it was clearly twice as powerful. Imagine if he sublimated this beast, the thought definitely crossed his mind, but he quickly shook his head to immediately dismiss that wild idea. Now was not the time for such high-risk gambles, especially since his physical and mental reserves were hovering near their limits. It would be far wiser to wait until he had fully recovered. After putting the pistol away, he logs into the system to check the 2 blueprints he just found. The basic water tank lets him store water and keep it fresh for 10 days, requiring only 10 kilograms of metal and 20 mechanical parts. The external garbage collector is even more intriguing, since it will automatically sweep up and store platform trash before departure. It requires 30 kilograms of metal and 100 mechanical parts, with an optional upgrade for an extra 300 parts that lets the workbench automatically recycle the waste into usable materials. Checking his current inventory of 210 kilograms of wood, 60 kilograms of metal, and 220 mechanical parts, he realizes he can easily afford both, but doing so means putting his first extra train carriage on hold for now. No rush, especially with the extra docking time he bought, giving him the luxury of a solid rest. As the countdown ticks down to its final hour, he opens the trading platform to scout the market. The rules are pretty strange. While other conductors can only list items for sale after leaving a station, anyone still docked is completely free to buy anything already listed. It looks like an obvious attempt to prevent station-to-station supply transfers, yet does nothing to stop private deals or purchases by currently docked trains. Honestly, it is a glaring loophole, one that makes him wonder if the entity behind train survival is subtly hinting that players can bend the rules a bit. He focuses his efforts on trading for metal, scanning his stash of low-grade rifles and compressed biscuits in a Brutal world like this, weapons and food are the ultimate commodities, but as he refreshes the market, he finds that although some have listed metal, the amounts are tiny and the prices are ridiculously high. It is pretty clear that most people are just testing the waters instead of offering fair trades. He switches over to the chat room, which is scrolling wildly with messages from conductors who have already left their first stops. One player complains about finding nothing but useless scrap tires at a dump, while another groans about arriving at a stinking wasteland filled with black mud. When a few point out that black soil can be used to grow vegetables, others immediately mock them, pointing out there is zero space on a train. The chat shifts when someone shares a blueprint for a basic mechanical fishing rod, sparking a mix of pure jealousy and confusion. It is obvious that many players have not found a single blueprint yet. People quickly start haggling, offering up their starting bread and water rations for mechanical parts. It is a desperate scene. Imagine being so hungry you would trade half a loaf just to survive. The atmosphere gets pretty toxic when the topic of treasure chests comes up. Those who have not found any grow hostile, demanding that others share their secrets for the sake of survival. Eventually, one player cracks under the pressure and posts a screenshot showing they opened a level 1 treasure chest to find 2 train coins, a healing salve, and a blueprint for an aluminum insulation pad. Calculating based on that progression, he calculates that if a level 1 treasure chest contains 2 train coins and level 2 gives 4, a level 3 chest logically yields 6. Compared to his massive level 2 haul, the rewards from the first level, the profit seemed pretty meager, though he knew medicine was a precious commodity in this world and any amount of coins was progress. Suddenly, a message in the public chat caught his eye. A user named Li Zio Shang was asking if anyone wanted metal, stating he had some to trade and was prioritizing weapons over everything else. The fact that he wanted armaments over food suggested he didn't lack basic survival gear. He preferred dealing with capable players rather than people who couldn't even fill their own stomachs yet, so he decided to reach out. A line of text soon appeared in their private chat as Li Zio Shang asked if he wanted to trade for metal. He countered by asking how much he had, to which the seller cautiously asked how much he needed. It was clear the guy was being guarded, but it confirmed he possessed a massive hoard. When he asked for 150 kilos of metal, the chat went silent. He could easily imagine him staring in complete disbelief. That was enough for a full level 1 train upgrade, and he likely wondered how our guy already got the rare wooden mechanical parts, or what gave him the confidence to buy so much. After a moment of hesitation, the trader replied he could do it, but asked what he had to barter. Noting that a starter dagger would only get him 10 kilos, he simply asked how he felt about a rifle. Using the system photo function, he sent over a snapshot of a basic low-grade rifle he had salvaged earlier. He offered 1 firearm and 20 bullets for those 150 kilos. The guy's shock was instant. He practically accused him of robbery, saying no gun was worth that. Our main character just smiled, casually spinning a brass bullet between his fingers. He knew that as the sole supplier of real firearms, he held all the cards. He told him the price was actually cheap, reminding him of the massive value of firepower against the unknown dangers waiting at the next stop. Having a gun meant surviving, and honestly, we all know he was right. The guy had scored over 300 kilos of metal and a chest earlier, making him feel like the luckiest survivor alive. But that short-lived pride paled next to the deadly rifle our hero was holding. When the trader tried bargaining down to 100 kilos, our main character just narrowed his eyes. He had completely exposed his hand by acting desperate, so he flatly refused to budge. He gave him a simple choice: take it, or he would find someone else who was more desperate. The trader gritted his teeth, begging for time, but he gave him a mere 10 seconds, saying he was busy. the trader had no clue he was still at the first station, working on building a carriage instead of a basic engine upgrade. Facing the pressure, the man finally folded and accepted the deal. He cautiously asked why he needed so much raw metal, wondering if he had custom blueprints to manufacture weapons, quickly adding he wasn't trying to steal any secrets but wanted to keep trading. The guy even boasted, confidently claiming he would easily reach level 2 in 3 stops, offering to promote his weapons once he became a top-tier conductor. Our protagonist found this hilarious. If the guy thought reaching level 2 in 3 stops was impressive, what would he think of our guy doing it before even reaching the very first station? He just chuckled, humoring the guy's wild ego before telling him to finalize the trade. With the trade, completely curious about how the system handled transactions. Following the system prompts, he placed the rifle and ammunition on the empty spot, and a virtual glow instantly swapped them for neatly stacked metal ingots. It was an incredibly smooth and efficient process run by the system's impartial judgment. With his new resources secured, he loaded a basic carriage blueprint onto the processing station, prompting a translucent screen to appear, confirming the materials were ready. Once he clicked construct, the wood, metal, and mechanical parts vanished, reassembling through mysterious force at the very rear of his train. The brand new carriage descended smoothly onto the cold tracks, connecting to the locomotive with a satisfying click. The system notified him that the construction was complete, adding that he could further modify it with glass and fiber. For now, it was just a spacious, empty shell about 10 meters long, roomy, bright, and exactly what he needed. It lacked glass in the windows and had no external door yet, requiring entry through the rear of the locomotive, but it felt right. A real train shouldn't just be an engine. He nodded in pure satisfaction and checked his stats, deciding his stamina and mental energy were far too low for further sublimation. He began dragging his supplies from the locomotive into the new carriage. He still had 40 minutes left on the countdown, plenty of time to return to the armory to scavenge whatever remained, but his current stats sat at a weary 21 for stamina and 59 for mental energy, leaving him in absolute exhaustion. Honestly, he was sprawled flat on the floor like a salted fish that had lost all hope of moving. During these final moments, he had drained his absolute last reserves of strength, making 2 final round trips to the armory. Still, he hadn't forgotten his earlier promise. Despite the crushing physical strain of hauling materials, he used a shovel to dig a grave for those skeletal remains, even erecting an unmarked tombstone as a quiet final gesture of respect. This moment marked the quiet conclusion of his harvest at this station. As the departure countdown finally ticked down to 0, the previously stationary train began to groan and slowly lurch forward, right ahead of the locomotive. Those familiar, warping spatial distortions reappeared, and the train steadily accelerated right through the boundary, returning once more to the endless expanse of the desolate wasteland. Right then, the train's emergency broadcast system crackled to life. It announced that all conductors had departed, offering a hollow congratulations to the 9,892 individuals who had successfully survived the first Nava station. The voice then warned everyone that they had officially exited the newcomer safety period. Starting from the second station, there would be absolutely no guarantee of stopping in safe areas. This dark announcement caused an immediate uproar in the chat. Some questioned the strange timing, wondering why they had seemingly left the platform a whole hour later than expected, while others realized with deep frustration that someone had deliberately stayed an extra hour at the first station. There were even angry conductors calling him a cheater, while others lamented that they never realized the first station was actually safe. Some conductors shared grim stories, like one whose first station was a deadly desert where they almost died in the quicksand, but he stayed completely oblivious to their bickering, as he was far too busy sitting on the floor organizing his massive final haul. His inventory was quite impressive, holding 49 low-level marksman rifles, 1,100 rounds of low-grade bullets, 150 kilograms of wood, 104 of metal, and 162 mechanical parts. He had also salvaged a wide variety of useful tools like crowbars, shovels, and screwdrivers, tossing any broken ones into the processing station for recycling while keeping the rest as spares. His current blueprints for the water tank and garbage collector needed 40 kilos of metal and 110 mechanical parts, which barely made a dent in his newfound reserves. After placing the blueprints and allocating the resources, the control system allowed for their installation, so he commanded the system to place the water tank inside the carriage and mount the collector on the left exterior. Once the setup was complete, he walked back to find a heavy metal water tank with wheels occupying a corner of his new carriage, built to hold 1,000 kilograms of water, featuring permanent built-in barriers to keep clean and dirty water completely separate. He immediately poured in 50 kilos of polluted water from the armory, feeling a little disappointed that he still lacked a proper purification system. He wasn't stressed, but it was finally time to test the market, so he posted his very first message in the public chat. He announced he was buying water, glass, fiber, blueprints, and other vital resources, offering firearms and food in return. As expected, the mention of guns caused an absolute frenzy, while some users shamelessly begged for weapons or asked if he was some big shot upgrading his train. Others offered to serve as his lackeys or tried to guilt-trip him into giving away resources for the sake of humanity. He noticed several non-Chinese names among the flooded private messages, which surprised him for a brief second before he realized this world probably pulled survivors from everywhere, even from different versions of Earth. He quickly blocked anyone trying moral blackmail or begging for handouts, focusing only on real, valuable offers. Then, a woman named Shangyun Yingsu offered 20 kilos of lake water, though she specified she wouldn't provide a container. He messaged back with total detachment, warning her that raw lake water could be deadly without filtration, demanding she show real sincerity if she wanted a firearm. She seemed annoyed but asked him to name his price. He demanded 50 kilos. After all, water was far more precious than metal, especially since almost nobody had storage containers. Even if they stumbled onto a source, his absolute minimum was 30 kilos of water for a single gun, but he clearly held all the cards. Ultimately, he was only one man, and regardless of his massive arsenal, trading guns for raw materials was his only smart move. She eventually agreed to the 50 kilos, though she sharply reminded him that hauling it was entirely his problem. He briefly wondered if he set the price too low, since she accepted instantly. But he was never one to waste time second-guessing himself. He confirmed the transaction to proceed, but Shangyuan Yingsu immediately added that she also needed ammunition and food, leaving him deeply curious. Where was this woman getting so much fresh water? Having those massive stockpiles was definitely suspicious. It was shocking. She had mentioned lake water, so her first stop likely bordered a lake, but what really puzzled him was how she stored it. Until the 3-hour docking period at the first station ended, both the trading platform and the chat room were restricted. Had she found containers or built them from blueprints like he had? He did not ask. Out here, everyone had secrets. He set his prices clearly: 5 low-grade bullets per kilogram of water. No container required on her end. For food, he offered military compressed biscuits at a rate of 1 biscuit for 5 kilograms of water. She agreed immediately, requesting 100 bullets and 3 biscuits, combined with the previous rifle and its ammunition. That brought the total to 85 kilograms of lake water. When she asked if he had enough containers or needed to buy some, he told her it was not necessary and initiated the trade. The trading point materialized directly above his water tank, as the firearms and bullets Vanished 85 kilograms of water manifested out of thin air, cascading into the reservoir. Between this and his previous trades, he now possessed 135 kilograms. He stared at the clear liquid, resisting the urge to take a drink. It looked clean enough, but he knew drinking unfiltered, unboiled lake water was a death sentence. They finished the transaction with a standard professional sign-off, and she silently sent a friend request, which he accepted without hesitation. Compared to the pretentious Lee Zio-sung, he preferred her quiet, no-nonsense style. He spent the next several hours selling off numerous rifles and ammunition. In return, he acquired the fiber and glass needed to reinforce his new carriage. Once he applied the upgrades, glass panes appeared in the frames, transforming the drafty compartment into a proper room. It was a bountiful harvest. By the time he finished, he had 21 rifles left. He did not stick to fixed prices, selling whenever an offer seemed reasonable. These low-level items would only depreciate as people unlocked better blueprints, so hoarding them was a bad move. Finally done for the day, he enjoyed a decent dinner of traded bread and clean water before curling up in a warm corner of the front cabin. He was too tired to worry about survival. His only thought was sleep. As the train rumbled through the wasteland, he watched the high-hanging moon until his eyes finally drifted shut. Shivering from the night's chill, he woke up, rubbing his tired eyes and stretching his stiff neck. Outside lay the same desolate wasteland, as empty as ever under the giant moon's cold, lonely glow. He checked the timestamp. 3:37 a.m. The chat room was still scrolling, proving few could sleep. Honestly, true rest is a rare luxury out here. Since he was wide awake anyway, he stood up. His stamina was mostly restored now. It was finally time for more sublimation. He started with his Colt M1911. It was already a masterpiece, and he wanted to see what it would become, especially since the next stop was guaranteed to be dangerous. He commanded the system to sublimate, feeling his stamina drain away. Elegant, faint patterns spread across the black metal, and it grew slightly larger, now requiring a firm grip to wield. It was now a level 3 blacklight enchanted pistol, capable of consuming his stamina to convert standard bullets into armor-piercing rounds. It cost him 40 stamina. A pretty fair price. He set up some scrap metal as a makeshift target and pulled the trigger while channeling his energy. A deafening blast and a searing muzzle flash followed as an armor-piercing round tore through the air, punching a perfect hole right through the target. He was floored. Beyond the heavy recoil, this thing hardly felt like a pistol anymore. At just 2 stamina per special round, it was a sustainable edge. The system hinted it could be upgraded further, but he decided against it. The recoil was already at the absolute limit of what he could manage. He still had energy to burn, so he moved into the new carriage and triggered an upgrade. To his surprise, it only cost 25 stamina with 0 mental toll. The space transformed into a Level 2 cozy train carriage, imbued with enchanted warmth that maintained a constant 22 degrees Celsius. No more freezing nights for him. Satisfied, he retrieved a traded blanket and spread it on the floor. The stamina loss was the perfect cure for insomnia, and he knew he needed to conserve his energy for that second stop tomorrow. That night, while others stayed awake shivering in the biting wind, he slept in total comfort. He woke up at 10:27 a.m. and stretched his stiff limbs. He estimated that since they entered the first station at 1 p.m. yesterday, they would likely arrive at the next one around the same time today, though he wondered if his 1-hour delay would push his arrival back. When he stepped out of the warm carriage and returned to the locomotive, the temperature drop was jarring. His control panel was flooded with messages. With that unsafe station approaching, you can bet the value of his firearms was skyrocketing. One message from a user named Luju caught his eye. The guy asked if blueprints could be traded. Until now, no one had been willing to part with a blueprint, as they were essentially Infinite production machines. He asked what the guy had, and he sent over. Screenshot of a level 1 train seat blueprint. Just a chair, hardly a top-tier item, but it was a permanent asset. He decided to trade, offering gun and 10 bullets. He reasoned that while guns were precious, their value was temporary, whereas a blueprint provided endless utility. Luju was incredibly grateful, bordering on desperate. He claimed that without this gun, he would definitely die at the next station. His certainty made him wonder if the guy had some talent related to foresight or danger sensing. He did not press. He simply completed the trade and went to the processing station to manufacture his brand new black chair. Sitting in it felt like returning to civilization. He spent the final hour before arrival closing out more arms deals, selling 15 rifles and 300 bullets, keeping the rest for personal protection. With his stats nearly full at 98 stamina and 100 spirit, he upgraded one of his own rifles. It cost 13 points, transforming it into a level 2 exquisite marksman rifle. It was not as powerful as his enchanted pistol, but still a massive upgrade. As the countdown ticked down, the chat room grew dead silent. 30 minutes before arrival, his Crossroads of Fate module triggered, offering a tough choice between a level 2 hunting platform called the Goblin Camp or a level 3 collection platform called the White Forest. He noticed the module. Now the interface displays more details, showcasing station levels and various types. He wonders if the first armory was merely Tier 1, did his train upgrades unlock this? He selects the White Forest. A gathering platform seems far safer than a hostile goblin camp. Suddenly, spatial ripples warp around the locomotive. Within 5 short minutes, they are completely enveloped in a strange, gray-white fog. Outside, a massive forest of bone-pale tree trunks stretches endlessly. The system gives a 4-hour limit, low risk. Surprisingly, nobody in chat has ever mentioned seeing hazard ratings. Is this another perk of his premium module? He gears up, holstering his pistol and prepping his rifle. His pack is full. He hits the door release. He steps outside. Silence. Absolute heavy, dead silence, like walking into a tomb. He can actually hear his own heart beating. Scanning the white woods, he wonders what resources exist here besides raw timber. Then, through the pale trees, he spots what looks like a path. He steps onto the trail and ventures deeper into the forest, his senses sharpening with every single step. He stays hyper-alert, scanning the quiet for hidden danger. His hand rests right on his weapon. Luckily, nothing moves. The path finally ends deep inside the pale forest, revealing a grove of trees laden with pale, glowing fruit. Are these the unique resources? He approaches a tree, eager to inspect the harvest closely. Using his dagger, he slices a stem and catches the falling fruit. As he brings it close, a sweet yet oddly bitter aroma wafts into his nose. It smells entirely different from any fruit in his old world. He swallows hard, mesmerized. The sweet fragrance is incredibly powerful, almost intoxicating. An overwhelming, primal urge to eat it suddenly floods his mind. He raises the fruit to his mouth. Stop. A sudden, sharp alarm blares in his head. He flings the fruit away instantly. His chest heaves, heart hammering wildly. He stands there gasping, trying to process what just happened, looking at his status screen. His stamina is 93, but his spirit plummeted to 72. Cold sweat breaks out. His spirit was completely full just moments ago. It drained in a matter of seconds, and he was not even hungry or thirsty. Why would he desperately crave a random, unknown object? This massive spirit drain is terrifying, far faster than any sublimation. These pale fruits are a trap. Frowning, he backs away from them. It is a massive pain that the train's appraisal function only works inside the cabin. He suspects the low-risk rating is because of these bizarre hallucinogens. Perhaps the scent alone temporarily breaks his resolve. Still, he hesitates. Leaving empty-handed simply is not an option. He needs to get samples back to the train for full analysis. He rips a clean strip of cloth from his shirt, wrapping it over his face. As a mask, truly, greed makes men blind, just like birds chasing food. Even knowing this crop is highly lethal, he cannot just walk away. He gets to work, harvesting the dangerous fruit in total silence. By the time his backpack grows heavy, he is absolutely drenched in sweat. He silently thanks his trusty dagger. Without it, this harvest would be impossible. Back on the train, he immediately runs an appraisal on his mysterious harvest. They are level 3 white forest fruits. Raw, they release a strange, heavy scent. This hallucinogenic fragrance drains spirit, and eating them raw is even worse. It permanently drains maximum spirit, but soaking them in cold water changes things. 5 minutes of soaking rapidly restores spirit while boosting hallucination resistance. He pats his chest in relief, safe for now. He narrowly escaped a major disaster. This was a much-needed wake-up call. He thought he was being cautious, but he clearly needs to do better now. He dumps his harvest into the water. 5 minutes later, they completely transform. They turn from dull gray to a brilliant pure white. He takes a bite. An explosion of incredibly sweet juice fills his mouth. Absolute heaven. Compared to this amazing fruit, his usual bread and biscuits taste like cardboard. Realizing the immense value of this find, sheer joy sparks in his eyes. He empties out his backpack, grabs his 2 guns, and packs his dagger. He sets out again. Each round trip takes about 20 minutes to finish. Filling the bag takes 10 more minutes. With only 4 hours, there is no time to waste. Stepping outside, he notices the trash recycling device he installed is actually running. A small cube-shaped robot, barely calf-high, shuttles between the forest and train. It diligently brings back leaves and stones, though it seems pretty useless. Still, since it is already built, he leaves it alone and focuses on harvesting. He spends the next few hours as a whirlwind, his dagger flashing rapidly. By the final 30 minutes of the countdown, he has gathered quite a bit. He has over 100 pounds of fruit. It is a shame to leave it behind. Who knows if he will find this again, but greed cannot make him miss departure. Leaning back in his seat, he munches on a fruit while organizing his supplies. He has his fresh harvest, 79 biscuits, and 21 bottles of purified water. For now, survival is not an issue. He opens the chat room to check on everyone. The player numbers stop him cold, just 8,721. Out of 10,000, over 1,000 are already gone. Think about that. Absolute misery. Desperate people are dying left and right. Some drink toxic lake water, others get punctured lungs from brutal boar attacks. Many more beg for medicine or food. Modern medical luxuries are totally gone. Out here, a simple scratch is a death sentence, while he is completely safe. He used crossroads of fate to find safety, but others are being chased. They are chased by boars or trapped in toxic mud. Soon, his countdown nears its end. He remembers the small recycling robot, hoping it found 10 kilograms of wood. That would be a miracle. He walks back to the station with zero expectations. But then he freezes. Sitting among the literal trash is a pale gray wooden box, a level 3 treasure chest. Are you kidding me? He did not dare venture deep for fear of getting lost, yet this little machine wandered off and found exactly what he needed. He pats its head. With newfound appreciation, feeling slightly guilty for looking down on it earlier. Worth every single resource. Still, he resists the urge to open it. A level 3 chest, if sublimated, would upgrade to level 4. This guarantees better coins and rarer items. His stamina is currently at 45. And 92 mental energy. He commands the system to sublimate, feeling a familiar drain. Tug at his very soul. Once it finishes, he is physically exhausted but mentally. Soaring with a heavy creak, he opens the level 4 treasure chest. The rewards are absolutely staggering. 8 train coins, an external alert tower system, white. Forest fruit seeds, a gray-white paint scheme, and an advanced ceramic. Bulletproof vest. He marvels at the loot, knowing how envious the chat would Be if they knew, but he keeps quiet, since bragging only invites enemies. He soon realizes he cannot sublimate these new rewards any further. The cost is simply way beyond his current capacity. It seems level 4 is a major threshold. He immediately installs the alert tower on top of the locomotive. It is a high-tech defense system that can mount ranged weapons and provide automated defense within 100 meters, even spotting invisible targets. He equips 5 of his remaining rifles to it, feeling a massive surge of pure security. As for those seeds, they require special white forest soil and 30 days to mature, gulping down half a kilogram of fresh water daily. It is a steep price, but he is one of the few players who can actually afford it. With just 3 minutes left before departure, he rushes to pack several crates with the gray soil the seeds need. He also processes the debris his robot gathered, gaining some raw wood and white pigments from the leaves and stones. As the train begins to move, he watches the white forest slowly fade into the distance. Back in the harsh wilderness, he is far stronger than before. He stretches leisurely and spots his private messages blinking. There is only one person on his friend list. It is Shangguan Yingzhu, asking if he still needs water. He types out a reply to her, making his boundaries clear right from the start. He asks what she wants, but warns her up front that he has absolutely no firearms left to trade. He waits a long time without getting any response, assuming she backed out of the trade. Just as he is about to close the screen, a message finally pops up. She apologizes for the long delay, explaining that she was busy taking a warm bath. He glances over at his own water storage tank, completely stunned. Just how much water does this woman have to be throwing it away so lavishly? Even with his massive success, he has never considered being that insanely wasteful. He texts back that it is fine, asking what she wants to trade while reminding her about the lack of guns. Meanwhile, on the other side, inside Shangguan Yingzhu's train, a stunning black-haired girl with waist-length hair steps out of a massive wooden tub, dominating most of her carriage. As she ties up her hair, her icy blue eyes remain perfectly calm and unreadable. She sends over a list 32 kilograms of wood, 50 kilograms of metal, and 40 mechanical parts. She notes that she is quite confident he has those items on hand. He raises an eyebrow at the screen, not answering directly. He asks why she is so certain of his stash, and even if he does have them, why would he not just use them for his own upgrades? She replies that she simply hates trouble. She gathered some materials herself, but trading with crowds takes more time than she likes. She calculated that he is likely the only player capable of providing bulk resources right now. After all, he sold over 20 rifles, and aside from food and water, he had to be taking crafting materials in exchange. She was absolutely right. He kept quiet though. In reality, he had already sold over 40. He had the materials she wanted, but trading them for basic water did not interest him anymore. His own stockpile was plenty for now, and he had seen people in the chat room discussing how to boil dirty lake water to make it safe. It was not a method he wanted to rely on unless things got desperate, making raw water far less valuable. Shangguan Yingzhu stayed quiet for a bit while drying herself off, then sent over a screenshot that instantly changed his mind. It was a level 1 water purification device, capable of filtering dirty wastewater at 1 kilogram. Every hour, he rubbed his eyes, staring at the screen. Did this actually exist? This explained her lavish baths. She could simply reuse all that water. Since she was willing to trade, he figured she might even hold the actual blueprint. When he asked, she did not confirm or deny it, only stating that the unit itself was enough to get the materials she needed. He hid his surprise. Whatever secrets she kept, he was lucky enough to be walking away with this tech. He agreed, and once the deal was finalized, he realized the filter could be easily installed right between his wastewater and clean water tanks. Once turned on, fresh water would flow straight into his storage, saving him a massive amount of hassle. Naturally, he activated his sublimation skill. Since it was just a basic level 1 item, the cost was tiny. It evolved into a level 2 premium water filtration unit, tripling hourly output to 3 kilograms and adding the ability to purify dirty water, even salty seawater. Feeling a bit generous, he sent her another message asking if she would be willing to reveal what her train upgrade options actually looked like. He wanted to know if her choices matched his own. She was hesitant, but eventually shared a picture of her level 2 options. She had the standard train car and the longer stop timer, which were exactly like his, but her random choices were a welding set and a wooden bed. Blueprint. This confirmed his theory. The carriage and time extension options were fixed, while the rest were random and varied greatly. Her choices were clearly worse than the ones he had been shown. As he nodded to himself, she asked if he had any spare train coins. He told her no, and when she asked if he still wanted to purchase more of her water, his mouth twitched, realizing she was recycling her bath water. Honestly, who could blame him for passing on that? He politely declined, ending the chat. He knew she wanted his coins to buy those upgrades, but he barely had enough for his own needs. There was still one critical decision he had to make: the blueprint for a train acceleration device. It cost 5 train coins, an amount most survivors would need multiple stations to gather, but he had plenty. He locked in the purchase, leaving himself with 4 coins. The device required 50 kilograms and 200 mechanical parts to build, and it would allow him to craft acceleration bullets capable of tripling the train's speed for 10 minutes. It was pricey, but absolutely worth the cost. The market platform was growing way more active after the second station, but food and water remained the absolute biggest struggles for most people. Those barrels of compressed biscuits he had previously ignored were suddenly looking like a gold mine. He shook his head, staring down at the resources he had finally managed to scrape together. It took 7 biscuits and a fair amount of effort to pry those mechanical parts from others. Now he understood why Shang Guan Yingzhu hated trading, haggling with people and constantly adjusting prices over mere scraps of food was an exhausting waste of time. He fed the materials into the processing station, and the blueprint for the acceleration device began to emit a deep sapphire glow. Before his eyes, metal and machinery fused, coalescing into a complex mechanical heart. The system noted that the train burst acceleration device could only be installed on the main body near the control system. Once integrated, it would produce acceleration bullets, limited to 3 uses per day. His heart sank slightly when he saw the cost: 1 kilogram of metal, 20 mechanical parts, and 1 train coin per bullet. Even the ammunition required currency. He wondered what a little sublimation would do to it. With his stamina at 55 and spirit at 70 after a few white forest fruits, he figured he had enough for 1 attempt. He poured 30 stamina and 40 spirit into the device, watching it transform into the red triple speed train acceleration device. The maximum capacity increased to 5 bullets per day, though the potential for further sublimation was now exhausted. Following the system's prompt, he placed it near the control panel. A silvery light swallowed the device, and a sleek black loading port materialized on the console. It was a pricey investment. He spent 2 of his remaining coins to produce 2 silvery shells, each as thick as a baby's arm. He winced at the expense as he tucked his last 2 points away. He was tempted to test the speed, but he was not feeling quite that extravagant yet. It was time to rest. As he drifted off, he could not help but wonder if the low spirit side effects were just empty threats, or so he thought. When he finally woke, both his stamina and spirit were back to a full 100. He stretched in the warmth of the climate-controlled carriage, washing his face while humming a quiet tune. Walking to the back, he checked on the seed he'd buried in the ashen soil. It was unchanged, so he decided to see if sublimation could jumpstart its growth. It cost him 30 stamina points, but the result was a blessed white forest fruit seed. the growth cycle plummeted from 30 days to just 9 days, 3 to sprout, 3 to mature. Better yet, it would produce one blessed fruit daily once ripe. He buried it back in the dirt and gave it some water. Feeling quite satisfied, on his way back to the front, he stopped by the garbage recycling robot. He promised to upgrade the little guy after all. He crouched down and knocked on its oversized matchbox head, calling for a sublimation. Strangely, the stamina he funneled into it simply vanished with no effect. Frowning at the first failure he had encountered, he tried again, this time using spirit. At the cost of 40 spirit points, a familiar radiance enveloped the machine. It emerged as the GT-1 automatic treasure hunting robot. Its purpose was clear. It would automatically leave the train at stations to locate treasure chests, mapping out the ones it could not carry. Back, it would cost 1 train coin per use and would forcibly return before the train departed. Camera eyes emerged from the box, rotating 360 degrees. Before locking onto his face to confirm his ID, it asked for a name, and he couldn't help but think of an old-world movie character, so he named it Wally. It immediately entered sleep mode, waiting for a coin to wake it up at the next station. With all those expensive acceleration bullets, he felt heading for financial ruin. He realized most people at this stage did not value train coins yet. Everyone else was still just trying to find enough food to see tomorrow. He quickly checked the chat room and saw his theory was correct. People were opening chests and wondering if the coins had any future use. Thinking they were just future station currency, he saw a prime opportunity. He listed a trade, 1 compressed biscuit and a water bottle for a single train coin. If someone took the bait, great. If not, no loss. By 12:30 p.m., the familiar crossroads of fate prompt appeared. He had to choose between the Level 2 Goblin Village, a hunting station, or Doomsday Town, a Level 2 mission station. To him, a mission station sounded like a brilliant new opportunity. Far better than the mindless trouble of slaying goblins. He made his choice and felt the train lurch into acceleration. The world ahead quickly dissolved into white noise. When the countdown hit 0, the transformation was total. He looked out at Doomsday Town. The docking countdown began its 4-hour crawl, but the system's final warning hung heavy in the air. This station was not just low risk anymore, it was dangerous. The train hissed to a halt, and he peered through the glass to survey his new surroundings. This station was a stark contrast to the oppressive darkness of the previous 2. Instead, a harsh sun hung high in the sky, casting a brilliant but unforgiving light over the streets. The view was haunting. Deep red stains marred the asphalt of the streets, and rows of rusted abandoned cars choked the thoroughfares. Doomsday Town, the name was fitting. He turned to his small companion. It was time for Wally to get to work. He winced as he dropped a precious train coin into its slot, watching the little bot wobble away through the recycling chute. A part of him wondered if some lurking monster might mistake it for a toy and snatch it up, but he had other things to worry about. Specifically, he needed to figure out the task for this station. Answer presented itself soon enough. Through the window, he spotted a corpse slumped nearby, its cold fingers still clutching a worn backpack. A piece of parchment tucked inside flapped rhythmically in the wind, but it was too far away to read. He did a final equipment check before heading out. He had food, water, his finely crafted rifle slung over his shoulder, and both his black gloss pistol and sharp dagger at his waist. Most importantly, he was wearing the ceramic bulletproof vest he scavenged. He had already sublimated the armor, streamlining it from a bulky bucket-like frame into a form-fitting vest that sacrificed none of its protective integrity. Fully armed, he pressed the door release. The doors hissed open, and he stepped out, instinctively closing them behind him with a flick of his wrist. Since only the conductor could operate the doors, he did not worry about unwanted guests sneaking into his home while he was away. Immediately, a wave of scorching heat rolled over him, carrying a nauseating stench, a foul mix of rotten salted fish and long decayed bread. Approaching the body, he used the barrel. He uses his rifle barrel to nudge the backpack open and read the parchment note. It starts by claiming the dead man was a legendary courier for the Run Company. Looking at the rotted remains, there is not much greatness left, but the writer clearly possessed a dark sense of humor, noting they were about to die, but insisting the courier's mission must never be broken. The task was simple: deliver the bag's contents to a silverware shop in the southeast corner of town. The note promised a massive reward from the Run Company if he showed the badge. This was his mission. Curious, he looks inside the bag and finds a cake sealed in a transparent box, remarkably well preserved. Happy birthday is written across the top in jam. Judging by the state of the skeleton, that birthday was long forgotten. He decides that while the party is over, this sweet cake is still a prize worth keeping. He also finds a mechanical badge featuring a gear-driven image of a running courier and a town map with a red dot marking the destination. Map in hand, he begins his trek. The road is a graveyard of skeletons and dark red stains, whispering of old horrors. Suddenly, he spots movement, a hyena feeding on a corpse. It is the first living creature he has seen here, or so he thinks until it turns its head. Its skull is completely rotted through, and its heart is exposed. It is not a dog, but a zombie beast. The creature lets out a guttural growl and lunges. He tells himself to stay calm, suppressing the rising panic in his chest. As he raises his pistol, he pulls the trigger repeatedly. He is not exactly a sharpshooter, but at this range, one bullet hits and the impact is powerful enough to blow the creature apart. He knows he has to move fast. The gunfire will act like a dinner bell for every monster nearby. Taking a detour, he manages to reach the silverware shop without further incident. To his surprise, the area is eerily quiet. He stands before the tightly closed metal shutter, wondering if anyone is still alive to receive this delivery. Just as he considers prying it open, the shutter slides up a crack. He immediately levels his rifle at the gap. A hoarse voice from the darkness begs him not to shoot, claiming to be human. He stays back, claiming to be a Run Company courier, taking over the delivery, and shows the badge. In this wasteland, an official title seems to command more respect than a wandering stranger. A scruffy bearded man in his 40s peers out, chuckling that only couriers, lunatics, and monsters are brave enough to be outside these days. He invites him in, but he keeps his rifle aimed at his head. He is not taking any chances. He hands over the cake and demands the reward. The man stares at the cake with a pained expression, muttering that it is a pity he had not come earlier. He retreats into the shop and returns with a box. Inside are 3 train coins. This confirms his suspicions. These coins are likely the universal currency across all station worlds, but as he reaches for the coins, the man's demeanor shifts instantly. He lunges forward and grabs the barrel of his rifle with unmistakable murderous intent. He does not hesitate. He pulls the trigger. A blast echoes, a severed hand flies, and the rolling shutter bursts open. The man behind the door is no longer human. He has swollen into a grotesque monster, his face twisted in a mask of grief and rage. He screams about his daughter just wanting cake, cursing the useless couriers for taking too long. The young man took a deep breath and kept firing. 3 rounds hit home, but the creature's tough hide easily shrugged off his upgraded rifle's power. A massive fist slammed into his chest, sending him flying. He gritted his teeth and forced himself up. Honestly, if not for that enhanced vest, that single hit would have ended him. The monster shrieked and charged again. He fired another shot. The beast laughed, claiming the bullets did not scare him. He smirked and told him to look down. Talk about a nasty surprise. He was riddled with holes he had not even felt. Giving him no second chance, the hunter drew his blacklight enchanted pistol, which thrummed with an eerie glow, converting his stamina into armor-piercing rounds. He stepped close and pressed the muzzle to the monster's forehead. One final bang and it was over. silence. Then he realized why no other monsters were nearby. This was the big guy's territory. After catching his breath, he retrieved the cake and the 3 train coins, feeling a flicker of regret for the waste of it all. He opened the shutter fully to find a clean silverware shop filled with silver crossbow bolts and spearheads. On a shelf he found a diary. The entries told a heartbreaking story, a father finding coins in a broken locomotive and trying to buy a birthday cake to cure his sick daughter. By March 11th, she had died without ever tasting something sweet. By March 15th, the man had lost his mind. He walked to the backyard, found the small tombstone the man had erected, and placed the cake before it. It felt like the only way to truly finish the mission, but the diary left him with a chilling thought. A broken locomotive outside town. Was it a conductor who had come before them? A terrifying thought. They were not the first survivors. In this game weighed heavily on him. He scavenged what he could, a crossbow and several silver items. They were heavy, but they felt important. On his return trip, the town felt more alive with monsters, and he realized how much he needed that extra hour his upgrade provided. He saw zombie animals of all kinds, but curiously no humanoid ones. Back at the train, he checked the time. He still had 35 minutes. He checked his haul: mithril bolts, a mithril cross, and a mithril sword, all level 2. He recycled the scraps into 10 kilograms of raw mithril. A fortune in his old world. He decided to sublimate the cross, turning it into a level 3 sanctified mithril cross that emitted holy light. As for the other weapons, he knew his limits. He was no swordsman, and his aim with a crossbow was even worse than with a pistol. He hung the cross at the front of the train and checked the trading platform. Someone had finally accepted his offer for train coins. He sat back, munching on fruit and admiring his new coins. Before opening the chat, the numbers were grim: 7,825 out of 10,000. Another 1,000 people were gone. Most were still struggling for the barest essentials, while he was sitting on a pile of mithril and enchanted weapons. The chat room was a chaotic mess of fear and confusion as people recounted their experiences at the 3rd station. Someone spoke of a cave crawling with spiders they had not dared to enter, while another boasted of using a gun purchased from an expert to fend off wild dogs and secure food. His ears perked up at the mention of expert Ye. It seemed his reputation was. His influence was growing, though some players quickly dismissed him. One critic insisted he was short-sighted and that his big brother, Li Zio Sheng, was the true local authority, claiming Lei was on the verge of a level 2 upgrade, but he remembered Lei Zio Sheng. The guy confidently predicted reaching level 2 within 3 stations, and yet here they were at the 3rd stop, and he was only just bragging about his success. He posted a screenshot of his upgrade choices, inviting others to join his alliance if they had trained coins, promising food and water to early recruits. He ignored that posturing and focused on the facts. The rivals' options included a carriage blueprint, an automatic fishing rod, and a survival rations recipe, plus the 1-hour stop extension. Just as he suspected, the 1st and 4th options matched his own choices exactly. The pattern was clear. While those rations were completely useless to him, that fishing rod was a pretty interesting prospect for future water-based stations, though there was no real need to rush. With his Crossroads of Fate module, he would get a 30-minute head start on vital information. Anyway, it was finally time to consider another train sublimation he had been holding off to recover his stamina and stack up more train coins. Between the silverware shop's bounty and his previous holdings, he had 4 coins. If Wally found a chest here, he would be in an even stronger position. But just as he prepared to begin, the rhythmic clanking of treads outside caught his attention. He looked out to see Wally wobbling back through the recycling chute, clutching a candy box stained with dark red marks. The little robot was covered in deep bite marks, clearly the work of something far more vicious than any normal animal. He followed its trail and spotted dozens of Zombie dogs circling the train, followed by lumbering, mutated humanoids similar. To the shop owner he had killed, he gave Wally's metal head a helpless wrap. Noting that the little bot had led those monsters straight to his door, still it had brought back a level 2 treasure chest, so he could not be too angry. He picked up the box, completely unconcerned by the growing horde outside. This was only a level 2 station, and his train was equipped with a level 4 defensive sentry tower. As the monsters crossed the 100-meter perimeter, the red orb atop the tower locked on. Crimson circles painted the ground beneath their feet, and long rifle barrels extended from the shadows, the air filled with the steady crack of gunfire, each shot finding a lethal weak point. In less than 10 seconds, the clearing was littered with corpses. He watched the scene with a detached calm, munching on a white forest fruit as more monsters swarmed in, only to have their skulls shattered by the sentry's superior marksmanship. When the countdown hit 0, the train lurched forward. They slipped into the void, leaving the ruins of Doomsday Town behind for the familiar endless wilderness. The onboard broadcast chimed, announcing that the newbie protection period was over. Survival mode was now active, and the voice warned them to be cautious at night. Any train moving slower than 30 kilometers per hour would enter a dangerous status. The chat room erupted in a fresh wave of panic, but he was focused on his own notifications. He had achieved an A-grade elimination rating for the station and completed a hidden mission, Town Liberator. His reward was a car exchange ticket. He patted Wally's head, realizing he would have missed this completely if not for the little bot's mistake. First, he decided to sublimate the ticket, transforming it into a special prize. It was for a level 2 special car, summoning a basic storage car that descended from the sky, locking right onto his train, just what he needed. 48 units capable of storing infinite items, finally clearing out all the clutter from his living quarters, but he was far from done. He moved to the end of the new car, initiating another sublimation to level 3. The cost was heavy, 25 stamina and 25 mental energy, draining him completely. However, the resulting storage unit was incredible. It not only prevented items from decaying, but offered 3 special units accessible from absolutely anywhere. It was basically a portable inventory. He immediately tested it by placing some fresh fruits inside a unit and successfully summoning one in his hand back in the locomotive. Talk about an incredible gain. Exhaustion tugged hard, but he still had that level 2 chest that Wally had found. Pushing through the haze, he spent 45 mental energy points to sublimate it into a level 3 chest. Red warnings of mental collapse flashed before his eyes, but he felt only a heavy, numbing fatigue. Prying the box open, he found 6 train coins, a zombie slayer chainsaw sword, 3 virus serums, and a windproof lighter, with 10 train coins. Now in his possession, he was easily the wealthiest, most powerful conductor in existence. He had the resources to claim every single upgrade when the train leveled up, but for now, his exhausted body was screaming for rest. He had pushed himself to the absolute limit, reaching a state of pure, unprecedented exhaustion.